Session to be held in Clark County, Nevada, pursuant to NRS 704.069 sub 2. This matter has been designated by the Commission as docket number 15-07006. Appearing for the Commission today are myself, Lady Burtonshaw, Chairman and Presiding Officer in Las Vegas. And I'm not sure I have any in Carson City.
No, Chair.
As well as members of the Commission Regulatory Operations Staff. Appearing for the Commission's Regulatory Operations Staff.
Good afternoon, Chairman. This is Tammy Cordova.
Good afternoon. Appearing for the Bureau of Consumer Protection.
Good afternoon, this is Michael Saunders.
Are there any persons who would like to make a presence known to the Commission for the purpose of this consumer session? We're going to have folks taking comments, so let's know that the persons come forward. Record should reflect the Commission has in its files affidavits of publication for the notice of this consumer session for this time and place. Is there anyone present that has any questions on the notice or wishes to examine the affidavits on file? Hearing none, the Commission needs this matter to be very properly notice for a consumer session at this time and place. The purpose of this consumer session is to solicit comments from the public on issues concerning public service that we regulate. We have with us today representatives from each of those utilities. So if there are questions that you'd like to have answered at the time about a particular utility, we do have representatives here that can probably do that. So why don't we get right to the taking the comments and let's see where we're going. So let's see, our first commenter is Mark Connolly. Mr. Connolly? Let's put it over here. Ernest Pastors.
I'm here, but I'm not speaking at this time.
Okay. All right. Bruce Rogel.
Yeah, here.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Bruce Vogel, and I'm here today as an interested homeowner regarding the status of solar net metering here in the state of Nevada. I'm not a wealthy person. I'm 70 years old. I still work part-time. I'm looking forward to retiring in the next couple of years. And I live in a modest 1,640 square foot home in a community of mostly retired people like myself, living on fixed income. I've always been interested in renewable energy and live a simple life, and started looking at the possibility of installing a solar photovoltaic system on my own home. Back in 2006, started looking. And I wanted to reduce my energy usage first, so I contacted the USGBC, US Green Building Council. I contacted Saturn, BPI. I wanted to do it right. I looked into doing all the things I could do to conserve energy, which I did. I put in extra insulation, I put in weather stripping, I did a blower door test, fixed everything up, put in complex fluorescent lights, and just updated them recently with LEDs. So I've done everything I recently could do to lower the cost of electricity. A few years later, NV started the solar generations program, a rebate program for helping consumers to get solar on their home. I looked into it. I was very impressed with the program. I thought it was one of the best programs in the United States. It could save more than half the cost of what the time was a $35,000 system. It was still too expensive for me to be able to afford. But I did apply to the lottery to see if I could get in. I did it for a couple of years. I couldn't get it. Just not that kind of person that wins the lottery. So I didn't. But I came here many years ago. It was probably 2011 or 12. And I said, this program is not a good program. Only very wealthy people are going to take advantage of it. It should be lowered the amount of rebate, and it should be available to everybody. And that's what I want to applaud the Public Utilities Commission and the energy. That's what we did. We fixed the program. And I was one of the first people to take advantage of it, and I was very grateful for that. So I put a 5.5 kW system on my home. It's been saving me about $1,500 a year with the solar generations rebate. It cost me, after my rebate and my federal tax credit, that system cost me $7,000. That's something that I could afford. And the payback for that system was 4.6 years. And I saved me $1,500 a year. That's a reasonable payback for somebody in my account. Well, that leads me to my concern today. The docket, NV Energy filed in August to change the net metering agreement all the time. Anyway, I figured out what it would do to my home. I was paying $1,500 a month. After I installed a solar system for 12 consecutive months now, I've only paid the connection fees and the taxes, which is $168. Under the NV Energy proposal, I'll wrap this up real quick. Under the NV Energy proposal that was filed under their docket in August, the cost of the system would be $1,500. The cost of electricity for my home would be $1,534 with the demand charges and all the other charges, facility charges, and lowering the rate to 5.5 cents for extra power credit. It means that electricity would cost me $1,534. It's costing me more than I would be paying if I didn't have a solar system at all. The Public Utilities Commission staff did their own study and came up with their own plan that would cost me $999 a year for electricity. It means that system to pay me back right now in 4.6 years would take 40 years to pay back. I'm 70 years old. I will never see the benefit of that system. A new consumer coming along, it just will not work for them. So I think this whole thing is wrong. I think what either system is going to do to the state of Nevada, what the Salt River Project did in Arizona, nobody is going to be able to install a solar system with these kind of benefits. And this is just a purchase system. It's going to be much worse for a lease system. So I'm asking you to reconsider, to go back to the study that you did in 2014. I read this very carefully. If anything's changed, the 3M company that did the study is very happy to plug in those new numbers and review these numbers, because I believe these numbers are accurate. And there may be some changes, but they could be made. If I have to spend a little bit more money per month for demand charges and facility fees because some poor person who doesn't have solar is being hurt by it, I'm happy to do that. All I ask for is to be transparent. And I don't know what those numbers are. All I know is the study numbers show that nobody's going to be hurt for keeping the net meter net right where it's at. So I know I'm running out of time. The only question I have for NV Energy is why they're filing a request to build $1 billion natural gas plant when we really don't need that, and why are the consumers going to have to pay for that? That's a question. I don't understand.
Did you want to leave the document with the
I've
rest?
left it already. I've
Oh, good.
made copies and left it with the desk. Thank you very much.
Mr. Conway?
Started on the wrong foot, for sure. I know two of the representatives are from Reno, so I better take this off, right? And then, sorry about the tire. I wanted to get here early, and these guys were the first ones to walk up to me. Okay. Let's see. My time's already completed. Well, thanks for next one. Okay. Anyway, so I'm also on the side of let's go solar, and I think that the commission is giving us a fair chance to speak why. We've been in Vegas since '87.
Thank you.
And I see the new construction stuff going up. I wonder why solar's not being put on initially, right? You know, but before we get there, we have to get past this hurdle here. And that's what this is. I mean, it's nothing new. As we know, it's happening in a lot of other states. You know, like, let's take Germany, for example. Most people here know that Germany's way ahead of us in solar. So the first thing we think is, yeah, they sure are smart over there, you know, Mercedes, BMW. But that isn't the reason. It's because they have the favorable rates with the established power companies to get going. I don't need to preach. I'll be preaching to the choir. We all want what's better, not only for our generation, but future generations. And we also want to spur, diversity and economic growth in Nevada with and beyond gaming. And we have so many people to come visit us, both domestically and internationally. What better thing to go home with but than witnessing solar energy up and running? I mean, beyond the rooftop solar, right? The distributed solar. I mean, what if the lights on the strip were solar? Those people would all be going back and it would just, we would be a world leader, we would be a national leader. You know, and I'm echoing a lot of the same sentiments that we heard our Commander-in-Chief speak at Mandalay Bay about a month ago, about what we're doing. And basically it's just a small hurdle anyway at the end of the day, because there are other states and other countries that have adopted, you know, some do net metering, others do other ways of working with the incumbent power companies. But that comparison, eventually we will be too. So what I'm pleading at this point is, let's just step ahead and do that here, and take that forefront position because we are the most visited city probably in the world. So let's get it done, and it starts with, you know, the rooftop installation. So that's an example, and of course it will spur new jobs. You know, it will be replacing jobs. And Nevada Energy, we don't need to feel sorry for them because they're going to end up being the ones to light up the strip solar-wise. They're going to be the ones who are going to get those huge jobs, you know, at the end of the day. But anyway, it'll also help us, of course, with the energy independence. It'll help us, you know, obviously economically, but even maybe for a more peaceful world, you know, and certainly a more environmentally conscious world. So, this commission, the PUC, you've done a stellar job of letting the people speak. People like myself who actually feel that I have a chance to be heard, okay, by you three commissioners, two up in Reno and then the chair president here down in Las Vegas. And we really appreciate us speaking, okay, and coming out here to say what we're saying. And at the end of the day, what we're saying is we don't see a lot of phone booths anymore. We don't see the gas guzzler, fast cars of the 60s, the heavy metal cars, you know, those are gone. You know, the typewriters and stuff, you know, things have moved on. Progress is going to happen. It's going to happen anyway. So let Las Vegas be in the driver's seat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. There we go.
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Barry Gold. I'm the Director of Government Relations for AERP Nevada. AERP Nevada has strong concerns that NV Energy's proposal for a prepaid class of service will create unnecessary costs to all residential ratepayers and undue hardships, including potential threats to health and safety to those who may sign up for this new program. The proposed prepaid program is solely at the initiation and request of NV Energy and has not been requested by consumers or even tested in focus group to gauge consumer interest. This is a program requested by the company where the benefits to the company far outweigh any potential benefits to consumers. The cost to implement this program have been estimated to be $6 million for the first 2 years and almost $24 million for the first 5. That is $24 million for a program no one has asked for. Some of this $24 million may be included for recovery in a future general rate case, meaning other residential ratepayers not participating in the prepaid program may be forced to pay for it. That should not happen. What the prepaid program really will do is increase NV Energy's profits and give them the ability to turn people's electricity off more quickly. NV Energy had previously agreed or stipulated to a rulemaking to look into the loss of protections from the Consumer Bill of Rights for those who sign up for the prepaid program. But that is apparently no longer part of the problem with the last decision from the docket. The Consumer Bill of Rights was created through an extensive process of discussions, workshops, deliberations, and final approval by the legislature. Everyone has agreed that anyone who signs up for the prepaid will indeed require some changes to the current Consumer Bill of Rights. To move forward without a rulemaking is shocking and denies public input and also legislative approval needed for any changes. During a similar case, California's Public Utilities Commission expressed outrage saying, quote, "You can't trample the Bill of Rights." There needs to be a rulemaking. Simply agreeing to a quote-unquote waiver is not in current statute or regulations. NV Energy states that this program is voluntary, but in reality, not so much. Customers will be faced with a terrible choice to either sign up for prepay with no large deposit or to do without electricity because they simply cannot afford the deposit for standard service. For most low-income Nevadans, this will be the only option. Many low-income consumers are elderly or have elderly or frail people living in the home or may have medical issues that will be compromised when their electricity is suddenly shut off. Yet they will still sign up for the prepay out of economic necessity. People should not be pushed into a choice to give up protections discussed and vetted by consumers, advocates, the company, the PUC, and the legislature, the Consumer Bill of Rights. This plan will actually cost more than regular service. People may incur credit card fees and interest, as well as the additional monthly charge that the PUC has recently proposed be set even higher than NV Energy's initial request. So what really happens when people sign up for prepay? Arizona's program has resulted in 10 times the normal service disconnection rate. Imagine having your electricity suddenly turned off when it's 100 degrees. So what's the bottom line? Benefits to the company far outweigh the problems for the ratepayer. This is a program to have you prepay and then pay more. On behalf of the 320,000 AARP Nevada members across the state, we strongly urge the PUC to require a rulemaking for any changes to the Consumer Bill of Rights and other consumer impacts related to the establishment of a new class of prepayment service. And thank you for indulging me for going over my time. It's the first time in 10 years I've gone over 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gold. Alita Dupree.
Madam Chair, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Alita Dupree here for the record. I come to you as a user of electricity and NV Energy customer ratepayer. And I live in the Rancho Sahara neighborhood of Las Vegas in an all-electric apartment. And so there's some good things. I'm a firm believer in demand-side management. I participate in the NV Energy time-of-use residential multifamily option B. And it's a very good program for us. We've saved quite a bit of money at it. We're able to flatline our usage in July and August for 62 days between 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. for military time. That's 1,400 to 1,900. And we're able to shave off about 7.5 kilowatts of demand during that time. And the fact is, the load curve here in Nevada is very pronounced. I'm a firm believer in the rooftop solar. In order to be able to flatten that curve, I think there needs to be a very strong imperative to get customers who have installed the rooftop solar on their homes and businesses to get those systems signed off and turned on with all deliberate speeds so they can be producing energy and being able to have a return on their investment. Which will also help you as well, because the less expensive energy that is bought, along with me flatlining in the afternoon, is going to drive my rates down. So we have to run tight with everything. We have an electric water heater in our home, which we shut off during that time. So there are thousands and thousands of these water heaters. Why not extend the Cool Share program from just the air conditioning and add these controls to water heaters, as each of those water heaters has 4.5 to 5.5 kilowatts of demand every time they snap on. You can keep them from snapping on during the day and turn them on at night. That will help keep our rates lower so we're not buying that expensive power during the course of the hot afternoon. So these are good things, but we have to move at deliberate speed. I want a choice. I should be able to buy solar power, even though I don't have a roof that I can put my own solar power on. I should either be able to buy it by the kilowatt hour, or I should be able to invest in some kilowatts of panels at a remote location and pipe that power into my home through the power of software I can net meter. I believe in the importance of net metering. I think net metering must stand into the future because I see the real benefits. I don't have the hard numbers for you, but the programs I am using are lowering my electric bill, but I think we can continue to work and do better. That's all I got to say, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Green. Chairman Feldman?
My name is Jane Feldman. I live at 5901 Marquette Avenue. I'm presenting comments as a ratepayer. Commissioners, perhaps you've heard about the petition that was released by climatetruth.org just a few days after this commission met and decided to extend the existing net metering rates through the end of the year. More than 19,000 people as of yesterday have signed this petition asking Warren Buffett and NV Energy to ease what it calls their opposition to rooftop solar. What's really interesting about this petition is that it has been signed by more than 400 people who are investors of Berkshire Hathaway. Those 400 plus Berkshire shareholders are click-sighted and courageous people. Those 400 plus Berkshire shareholders understand what the E3 study from last summer reported to you, that net metering customers do not shift costs to non-participating customers. As a rooftop solar owner, I pay every single fee and charge that any other residential customer pays. I cover the cost of the grid and transmission in exactly the same manner as every other residential customer. Those 400 plus Berkshire shareholders discern how solar panels are good for themselves in the long run and good for all of us in several different ways. Good for the environment, good for the economy, good for the future. These shareholders are willing to look beyond their personal short-term gain as shareholders and see that in the long run, rooftop solar has a wide range of real benefits for them as individuals and to all of us who are intent on creating a survivable future. Rooftop solar is a democratic energy source. It puts power production into the hands of homeowners and owners of small businesses. Rooftop solar has zero cost for fuel, provides jobs for thousands of Nevadans, operates with no pollution, does not contribute to climate disruption, and does not consume pristine public land in the Mojave Desert. Rooftop solar provides power during much of the peak usage time of day, and this helps the utility to avoid investments in expensive new power plants. For all these reasons, I urge you, commissioners, to be as clear-sighted as those 400 plus Berkshire Hathaway shareholders. I urge you to act strongly, even aggressively, to make sure that Nevada continues to be a state that encourages rooftop solar. Thank you.
Fred Volz?
Good afternoon, Commissioner. I'm going to start my comments by asking you a question about commission operations. I know you've been with the commission for 22 years, and I'm wondering if you're aware of any global review that's been done of the PUC's operating practices and procedures for any potential economies, efficiencies, or better methods of serving the public interest in the rate-paying public.
Are you talking some formal review?
Formal or informal, and it could be an internal one or an external one.
Well, of course, like any other state agency, we are subject to a number of state audits during the year.
Well, I'm talking about more operational than financial debits and credits. Just the way that we do business, the way you interact with the public, that sort of thing.
I think you need anything specific right now.
All right. Okay, thank you for that answer. What I'd like to suggest is the following. It seems as though the commission would be very well served to assemble a group of individuals who would represent the two largest regulated utilities, NV Energy and Southwest Gas, somebody from the commission, and then members of the rate-paying public from both the north and the south parts of the state to review those practices and procedures of all three entities, the PUC, NVE, and Southwest Gas. The group would be tasked with considering any alternatives that might improve operations and cost structure, and then forwarding those recommendations for due consideration by the appropriate parties. And I'd like to cite a few examples of subjects that could be looked at. First, in the case of mobile homes, the commission is involved with essentially a clerical function by statute of reviewing any distributions from trust funds for utility accounts to do repairs or maintenance on master metered situations in the parks. And all other aspects of mobile home regulation are handled under the Department of Business and Industry, the Manufactured Home Division. That would seem to be a more appropriate place once the statute was changed to have that work performed. Secondly, I'm very concerned with the administrative fines that the commission levies. There has been an increasing number, they're right now at about $314,000 as of the last quarterly report of uncollected fines against regulated utilities. Commissioner Noble, your colleague, suggested at the last administrative agenda that there was no need for quarterly reporting to the public of these uncollected funds, even though there's a 22% delinquency rate. And unfortunately, the former executive director did not hire any external collection agencies to try and collect that money before it goes to the state controller. Another subject is the ratio of supervisors, managers, and directors to other employees at each entity, and that would include the PUC, NVE, and Southwest Gas. It would seem prudent to set an annual goal for all three of those entities to reduce administrative costs as is done in private industry. And another point, when questions are asked by parties to dockets, these questions and answers are not published on the PUC website, but rather obscured from public view. And it would be very helpful for the public to know what is being done on their behalf when it comes to research and coming to some sort of an opinion on an issue that's for the commission. And I will save the rest of my comments for this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Charles. Charles Dante?
Good afternoon. I trust that you have a copy of the documents that I submitted, and one was sent up north.
I don't believe I used them. Did you submit them at the?
I did. May I just bring them to you?
Yeah.
Sure. You need another copy? Sure. I think your copy's out after this, sorry, but I kind of go over it. I'm already down.
Don't worry about it.
Thank you. I'm a little bit different. I'm here as a homeowner because NV Energy shut off my power, admitted it was their error. We had no power for 11 days while we were out of town, caused severe damage to my home. I've had one supervisor admit that it was totally their fault, not to worry, NV Energy would take care of it. You have a copy of the emails. I've been in contact with Juanita West, the negotiator, and those emails are back to front. There's a whole email trail. I'm 74 years old. I'm old enough to know when somebody is giving me a snow job. That's what's going on with NV Energy. They never negotiated in good faith. They don't intend to negotiate in good faith. Their offer is ridiculously low. I'm up over $31,066.87 for damage that they admittedly caused, that the negotiator herself admitted it was their fault, and yet they want to pay me $10,000. They want me to take a hit for $20-some thousand. I know Warren Buffett's got a lot more money than I do, and I suspect that NV Energy does also. And honestly, I'm here to make this complaint, I want to go on record. And what we have here, is Big Brother. Big Brother with a big club and all their power, trying to intimidate, coerce the little small homeowner to just buckle under and go away. Shame on you guys. Shame on NV Energy. I've listened to other stories here. My gosh, shame on them. You should not allow them. Next time they come to you for a rate hike, just say, you know what, you got $31,000 from a consumer that you admittedly caused damage to. There's a complete paperwork trail. First they wanted receipts for the wine. The wine was almost $5,000 that got ruined because they shut the power off for 11 days. Well, I don't have 8 or 9-year-old receipts. When I asked the negotiator, did she have her receipts from 8 or 9 years ago, she admittedly said no. But I did supply the receipt for the 2 pieces of meat. There were lots of other things that were damaged. I just didn't put them in. They caused the floor to split. We turned it into our homeowner's insurance, and because that's where we thought we were supposed to go. The homeowner's insurance came back and said, wait a minute, how did this happen? When I told them the story, your claim is against NV Energy. $25,862.96 to repair that floor. I can't get a straight answer out of NV Energy as to why they won't negotiate, why they came up with a number of $10,000. Why will they not act in good faith? They claim that they want to settle amicably. My goodness. I agreed to take $20,000, to take an $11,000+ hit, and they want to shove it down my throat and want me to take a $21,000+ hit. My goodness. There's an email trail. Read it with whatever you want to do, but shame on NV Energy. Shame on you guys. All they're trying to do is beat me up, and I don't like it. And I don't know where to go from here. I suppose that what they're banking on is that I don't have the wherewithal or the moxie to take them on in court. Haven't decided. Really haven't decided. But they should never be allowed to get away with this kind of stuff. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Mr. Dante, I would urge you to talk with one of our consumer division folks.
Love to.
I think your first step is to file a complaint with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Will do. Where do I go?
I'm going to Alicia. I believe Alicia has been
Good.
working with you on it.
Right there.
Thank you for your time.
You bet. Thank you, Mr. Dante. Mr. Allen, I'm not sure, I can't read the first name. I think it's K-W-I.
Good morning, good afternoon, Madam Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Allen.
Oh, thank you.
I am a private citizen, and I'd like to start with a disclaimer, if I may. I never owned a share of Nevada Power stock, never owned it when they were in NV Energy, and I don't own any Berkshire Hathaway. Who can afford it? So I am here today as a ratepayer, with no other agenda. The subject of my approach today is building power plants. I know this is a minor thing right now, but we are coming into an arena, ladies and gentlemen, which is very much best articulated by that great American philosopher Yogi Berra. It's deja vu all over again. This file is the electric deregulation file from 1999, 2000, 2001.
I remember it well.
You remember it well. You know, you remember me, but I was there every meeting. This file has a remarkable history to it, and the colleague outside you and a few other folks who were back then, there are a handful of people in this state who understand how close we came to total disaster over that electric deregulation. And the fact that we dodged the bullet really came down to Governor Gwynn, who was a utility executive and had a very stronger understanding of markets, in the electricity markets than most, and a lady by the name of Joanne Kelly, who was the chair of the committee that he put together. And between the two of them, they saw what was coming, and they just kind of backed away from it. They just went away. Now, the reason I brought this here today is because in here, on a fairly regular basis, was this subject that came up on a fairly consistent basis, which is why didn't we have the energy? Why weren't we having the energy to handle this crazy market that the electricity industry had gotten into? And the answer was because the commission wouldn't let Nevada Power build power plants. Nevada Power would come look, and they'd say, look, we're only generating X amount of electricity ourselves, and we've got to buy the rest of it. And the commission back all through the late 1980s and 90s looked at the market and said, buy it in the market, buy it in the market. It's too expensive to build any plants. Buy it in the market. And Nevada Power did exactly what it was told to do, and they bought the power in the market. And this worked swimmingly for a long time. And then it didn't work anymore. And the bottom line was that Governor Gwynn backed away from deregulation, and NV Energy started building power plants. And today, if you get the NV Energy, they'll tell you that they are generating much, much more as a percentage of what they're selling than they did back then. And this business of this one little plant they want to build seems to be going down the same road. No, you don't have to build it, you don't have to build it, you get it in the market. Solar power will generate the energy for you, or you got the big corporations leaving, so you don't need it anymore. This is the same mistake, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm saying to you that if NV Energy can make the tiniest case, I mean like 3 out of 10 on a scale of 0 to 10, let them build the power plant. Because this, folks behind me here, the general public have no idea what could have happened to them if the change hadn't been made, had the deregulation gone through. NV Energy has to protect the grid, regardless of anything. And if they can make that case to you, then I as a ratepayer will grumble just like anybody else will, but at least I will know how important it is to maintain the grid. I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Tom Davis?
Madam Chairman? I'm a longtime resident of Las Vegas, as well as married in a family that's been here their entire lives, and seen this town grow considerably. A lot of the changes. And my belief at the time as a young man was to come out here, what an ideal place to have solar. But probably 30 years before it was economical for individuals, and even then, now it is proving to be less economical as the energy has a pushback and obviously a desire to control energy 100%. What I'm finding, and happened to me on a small sense, was that in my installation of a system on my roof, that I had a meter in there, and just recently I asked my wife, I'm going, what happened to the savings that we were seeing and looking at to recoup our expenditures on power, our roof solar? But we're back to 2/3 things happened. They put a new meter in a month ago, and my bill just shot up. Is this part of that reevaluation allotment for kilowatt hours from 11 cents to 5.5 cents?
No. There's been no action taken on that.
Okay, well, it's gonna take a little more looking into as to whether this is proper with the company. But I also want to reiterate some of the other folks that have spoken regarding rooftop solar as being a true answer to Nevada's future. The carbon footprint, what we speak of global warming, whether you want to buy the fact that we're producing more heat than the sun. The sun's coming down awfully strong, right down in the middle of Las Vegas, and that is something that I don't think we need to do. Solar panel systems 50 miles out of town and put it down a wire into town, which I have been in commercial properties and also a little bit of background with energy. And line drop is an expense. The rooftop system does not have line drop. It also benefits a neighbor because they're selling my power that I'm producing for cheaper or at full price and giving me next to nothing. I want to add to what I've said because I also agree with many of the articles that have appeared in the Review Journal regarding the dropping of the net metering rate, the extreme anti-solar power that's represented by Nevada's pushback is the worst in the country. And then to also address what would be considered the monopoly that exists, not just that it's Nevada Power, but Berkshire Hathaway Energy, consisting of power controls over 11 states and incomes that is represented in Nevada of 20% of their finances in that particular category. I believe that there's reason to consider your legal team, you have a substantial one here, that why aren't they looking at whether this is an antitrust issue with Berkshire Hathaway? There's Nevada Energy, Pacific Corporation, Mid-American Energy Company, Northern Power Grid, Northern Natural Gas, Kerr River Gas Transportation, Home Services of America, BHE Renewables, and Alta Link, BHE U.S. Transportation. They have more than a simple Nevada Energy control on the market. They have a whole network of control on the 11 states. And that's, I'm handing you what would be their cover sheet of their financial strength. And in the, one of the ending paragraphs that really represents their understanding of their strength is a long-term ownership perspective promotes stability and helps, which granted we need the power company, by our choice, by certain sellers and the favorable regulations that occur here in the state. And in this pie chart here, 20% of their revenue for this Berkshire Hathaway is out of Nevada. I think they've got plenty. And any other increase in rates or cap on solar roof panels is, as Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt called it a plutocracy. And the end of free markets, a rampage of crony capitalism. That's where we're at.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas. Angel DeFazio.
record, Angel Fazio. I've been waiting months to get this into the record for the LCD filing. The deposit tariff and NAC are erroneously and falsely stated regarding retirement and Social Security. That implies that only those technically of retirement age are covered, when in fact those on Social Security disability clearly fit under this umbrella. This needs to be incorporated ASAP. 704.329 NAC Deposit Alternative, subsection V, receives benefits from a retirement plan or Social Security Administration. From your website under deposit, certain customers who receive benefits from a retirement plan or from SSA cannot be required to pay a deposit unless the customer has had a termination of service or has had 4 or more payments after the issuance of the next monthly bill within a 12-month period. Customers who have no payment history or poor payment history may have to have paid a deposit. Keyword here is may. So just what constitutes a may be required to pay a deposit? Using the term may implies it's at the whim of the utility, which in itself is arbitrary. For example, if the customer isn't worthy as perceived by the CSR, they can require a deposit and vice versa. Where are the parameters, regulations? Every damn thing between the PUC and utilities is highly structured, where the utility can't blow its nose without PUC approval, and you allow this? NVE seems to think like Nestle's COB Peter Lametti, who says water is not a human right. As NVE's flex pay is an attempt to deny those who can't afford their unfair deposit amounts, to give up rights in order to have power that is a human survival necessity, especially here in the dead of summer. NVE must have been so concerned about flex pay that they had people in their foundations contact grantees to write up comments in support of it, as it was very obvious that they reached out, as the 2 comments were identical in wording in the opening paragraph. The comments were addressed to foundation management rather than the PUC. As usual, the ratepayers actually paid attention to filings. In 2012, I complained about the Green Cross program. In 2013, I had to complain again, and was finally resolved with NVE. Now with flex pay, the same segment are being targeted again. Those with medical equipment can't be part of flex pay, as NVE can't disconnect this fast. They are the most vulnerable, but because NVE wants to basically eliminate, reduce uncollectible receivables that are a normal part of any business to increase profits. They can't be both concerned about them having power and denying them over deposit requirements. I can't neglect solar with all the aggravation, false statement whining that we have had and will be enduring. Number one, they feel everyone who wants solar should have it. This is nothing short of a blatant lie. Let's use Solar City as an example. They are very selective as who can have it. Must be the homeowner, must have certain credit score. so that maybe they're touting with everyone who wants it should get it. Number two, apparently to them, renters who outnumber owners are persona non solar. Three, that they are interested in job creation and they are being stifled regarding the net metering docket. Reality, again using Solar City. When they were invited to participate in a disability job fair, they refused to even respond. This is their idea of creating jobs by overt discrimination. Four, that they aren't being subsidized, but subsidizing others by contributing to the grid. Well, how are you contributing since you are using equipment that we are paying for and you think you should be compensated for your contribution? I highly doubt your cheap KW charge is going to offset infrastructure costs. Five, when you pay for my choice of an analog that no one subsidized that fee, then we can talk about yours. At least with the analogs, we are preserving jobs and health. Six, solar has a right to exist, but not at the expense of others. Seven, when a 10 megawatt project is proposed, it generates less than 65% of the promised generation, so it costs too much for less than what it's supposed to produce. If the sun was out 24/7, then it might live up to its generational promise. But if it's not 100% of proposed, then don't build it until you give us our money's worth. And my final comment, and the most important, Solar City called the person who refused their product a while back. Now they called and said NVE signed a document that smart meters are not needed. Upon contacting NVE, Gary Smith stated, no such document and smart meters are required for rooftop solar. Apparently Solar City is stockpiling denial leads and coming back to try and sell them. This is clearly a case of deceptive marketing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paziano. Shelley Shelton?
Good afternoon. I'm Assemblywoman Shelley Shelton. I represent Assembly District 10. And I'm here to talk today about the flex pay or the prepaid program. Some of the things I was going to mention have already been stated, so I'll try to avoid those. But one of my main concerns is protecting the consumer. And the Nevada Consumer Bill of Rights has been, over years of legislation has been put into the protection for the consumer's rights. And with the FlexPay program, I'm very concerned at some of the most vulnerable consumers giving up their rights just in order for them to supposedly be able to pay their electric bill. One of the examples that I would like to state out is right now, if you are going to have your electricity shut off, if you have a balance of, let's say, $100 or less, then you fall under that category. However, with the flex pay, your balance could be zero and it could automatically shut your electricity off. So I think we need to take into consideration and maybe change the way we're thinking about protecting the consumer. If that is the ultimate purpose, then it needs to be sure that we're protecting the most vulnerable ones, because the people that would take part in flex pay are going to be the elderly or the poor. So they're going to be the people that are in a position to maybe waive certain rights that they don't realize that how important these rights are to them. And or they may not, they may find that as their only option. Either I have electricity and go on the flex pay, or I don't have electricity. And in the state of very good option, especially with our weather. The second thing that I wanted to bring up is to look at maybe other options which involve the issues without adding cost and denying rights to other people. Right now, if you move into a property that previously had power, your deposit is determined on the historical data of that property. But if it's something that has been newly constructed, and it's like an apartment or like a 10,000 square foot home, you have a flat rate deposit of $100. So I'd just like to ask that the most important thing, and I think it was stated by several other people, is that we take into consideration the customers that would be utilizing this are very vulnerable, and we need to make sure that their rights are protected also.
Thank you. Judy Traco?
Want to speak about the energy proposal for a tariff on rooftop solar. There are two of us living in a very small house. We're in our 70s and still working from a home office. We bought a rooftop solar system from a local company, Bombard Electric Renewable, in 2014. Soon we're going to both be on Social Security incomes, and our planning for that includes sort of a pay-it-forward investment to ease our future bills with solar. NV Energy is guaranteed a return on their investments. We didn't expect a guarantee, but we did understand and expect that this investment, our gift to NV Energy, would provide us with paid-for electricity and a bill only for the cost of basic fees that everyone else is charged. I've worked for 30 years for the Nevada Nuclear Waste Task Force. The propaganda from the nuclear industry is that the country, including Nevada, needs nuclear power. Although we have no reactors in Nevada, during the hot summer days when demand is high, NV Energy needed to meet the needs here from the national grid, which included nuclear power. So they said, we, Nevada, should be willing to step up and accept a nuclear waste out here. And our reply has been that we had a better idea. Instead of importing dangerous waste, we would export clean solar power, especially at peak times in the summer. Until the last 10 years, that was considered an unaffordable joke, but now it's real. And apparently it's so real that it has scared the utilities into taking actions like the proposal that's now under consideration by the PUCN. This same battle is going on throughout the country, and what's becoming very clear is that the utilities do not need additional revenue, tariffs, or new charges from their rooftop solar and net meter customers. There are very real values to utilities from distributed generation and to the country as well for the sort of benefits that come from solar generation. What's needed is a new business plan by NV Energy that allows them to profit from providing services in the new reality. At home, our house is warmer in the summer than this room is, and it's cooler in the winter. And we're living within our means and would like to be able to continue to do that. People like us who made an investment to help ourselves and the utility and the environment should be able to live responsibly and within their means by taking these sorts of steps. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Tom Eckes? Eddie? It's E-P-P-E, I think that's an S.
What did you say there?
I
think you're talking to me.
E-P-P-E-S?
Yeah, it's just X.
X, okay.
First of all, thanks for having this meeting. I really appreciate it. I only came down here today so I could try to get a little bit of an understanding of what's going on. Ever since the 70s, I've been told that solar energy is going to be the future because it's clean and it's, well, hopefully it'll always be there, right? And to that end, when I moved with my young family in 1997 to Las Vegas, I started looking into solar energy right away. And I found out that there's only one other city in the whole country that gets more sunlight than we do, and that's Albuquerque. So this is the perfect place to have solar energy. And I had to wade through having my 4-year-old twins grow up and get through college to get to the point now where I can really afford to spend the money on a system. But now I'm not sure that that system's going to be able to be something that's going to benefit me financially. I don't know much about the corporations. I don't know much about the machinations of what's going on here. But I do know that America wants a choice. And I think that there's a way that we can be able to have rooftop solar and still have NV energy be able to make a living. And that's really all I have to say. So thanks for hearing me out, and let's make it so that this net metering thing, which I thought was a great idea and a good way, and can I ask a question? Does NV Energy get credits from the government, from the United States Treasury or from the government?
What kind of credits would you be speaking of?
Do they, for instance, when they build a solar plant, right? Do they get a credit in any way? Is it beneficial to them in any way? Does the government do anything for NV Energy?
I think that maybe staff is the best person to
Like
address this.
do they help NV Energy to provide solar energy? Do we know that?
They get some level of investment tax credit like other
Right,
developers.
yeah, okay. Well, then that's coming out of our tax dollars in a sense, right? Yes, no, maybe?
Do you want me to respond to that, Joanne? So you may not be surprised to know that there's lots and lots of different types of tax credits that different kinds of businesses
Sure.
use. And you're asking a very simple question. Unfortunately, I can't give you a simple answer to that, but to the extent that, yes, NV Energy is eligible for some tax credits that the federal government provides, and to the extent that they take advantage of those, yes, then that would be funded by taxpayers.
Great. Well, we've been a great customer of NV Energy now for 18 years, and we pay taxes, so we're helping NV Energy, to get the tax credit. So I think that we ought to be able to have a rooftop solar situation and a net metering and be able to save money on our electricity. What do you guys think?
Oh, I'm not taking
Sound
that.
reasonable?
But thanks for the insight, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the time.
Tran?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Tran. I'm a ratepayer and also the Chief Technology Officer of Solar USA, a solar contractor here in Southern Nevada. I urge the Commission to consider keeping net metering rates the same for Nevadans. Net metering does not significantly shift costs to non-solar ratepayers. Instead, it reduces the need for new plants while lowering transmission costs. The cost of building new plants, instead of being paid for by ratepayers, are now paid for by private citizens out of their own pockets to build a power plant right on their rooftop. Several other states have done studies commissioned by their respective PUC and found no significant cost increase for non-solar customers from net metering. For example, a study done by the California PUC have found that distributed solar customers who use net metering have contributed slightly more than their full cost of service, undercutting the notion that utilities need to raise electricity prices for non-solar customers. Small businesses like my company help grow Nevada's economy. A solar tariff that does not benefit customer generators will hurt our growth, limit ratepayers' choices, and hinder our move for a cleaner future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Tran. Ms. Helton?
Good afternoon, Commissioner. I'm Louise Helton. I happen to be the owner of One Sun Solar Electric in Las Vegas, and I've had my own personal solar journey that actually think that's important to point out, because one of the things that struck me during the previous hearing that was held about the interim issue was when the rate case was being presented by the Public Utilities Commission staff, and she had to describe the fact that she wasn't familiar with what a rate would be shaped like for a solar customer, but she assumed there would be a lot going on as if we were wealthy people. This is not the case. We are frugal people who are very sensible about our investments. So when I was wanting to make an investment into my home, I was able to not just put the solar, I wasn't looking forward to just putting the solar energy on my roof, but I was looking forward to reducing the demand so that it would cost me as little as possible. Now I have to tell you, the renewable generations rebate that I sought, I applied for in 2008. I had to wait for 18 months because I was on the end of the waiting list. At that time, that's the way this the program was done. So needless to say, at the same time I was starting my business, you can see that it has been a very difficult process when you're fighting a rebate system that was, at the time, the only way that really it could be afforded. But nonetheless, I and hundreds of my neighbors went ahead and continued to work toward getting solar on our rooftops so that we could make the difference in the world that we wanted to see. And when you look at how much difference we'll be able to make, the 235 megawatts of power that we will be providing at peak times through our installations that are available through the CAP is actually going to save over 10 billion gallons of water, a precious, precious resource to our community. And that's because using solar instead of having things go through gas-fired power plants, there's no need for water cooling. We've also saved over $9 billion in what the power company would have had to spend to build power plants that would have generated this much. The ratepayers didn't have to come up with those dollars. Those were all private dollars by me and my neighbors who have all saved up in order to make this possible. There's been a lot of myths that have been put forward and tried to change the narrative about how good solar really is. And solar is very good. It is very cost effective. It is not cost shifting. The wonderful survey that was done by E3 a year ago and presented to this body is factual. I know that there were a lot of things like the numbers that I'm providing that were not included in it, just as there were things on the other side that were not included in it. It was a straight down the middle report. When called, E3 said that they had seen the energy cost shift study, and they stand by their own report. Thank you very much for your time.
Mrs. Hilton. Anthony Castle Bonham?
That's close.
Okay, sorry, I really apologize for not saying the names correctly.
Oh, I know. I once kept a list of mispronunciations of my name. It took a whole week. My name is Anthony Castle-Bono, and I'd like to introduce, I represent an organization of two, myself and my wife of 20 years, Lane. Would you stand up? We're going to speak as an organization of two. I've heard from the ratepayers at the beginning, and I'm very impressed by them. We are also ratepayers. We are also users. We own a house in Las Vegas on the west side, just a few miles near Jones and Sahara. We are on the other end of the spectrum. We've done very well in our lives, worked very hard. We own a 7,500 square foot house with an indoor pool and an outdoor pool and a bunch of fountains and lights all over the ground. We use a lot of electricity. When we bought it in 2013, the first electric bill we had was $1,309. I said, ooh, no. So I started looking into solar. I called all the solar people I could find. The first one that came up, and the second one that came up, and the third one that was Solar City. The 9th and 10th and 11th. And the salesmen kept coming, and they all told different lies. And I asked for the contract, and nobody wanted to give it to me, but the fourth one or so gave me the contract. I'm a retired securities attorney, so I could read it. So I read it, and I found the lies. I said, I don't want to do this. So I tried another one and another one and another one, and all the leasing companies, I ran into proclamation nonsense. And then I met someone who happens to be here today, Louise. Stand up, Louise. She doesn't lease, she sells. We, of course, have the wherewithal to buy. So we bought 46 285 watt panels and put them on the roof. While we were doing that, we had the whole roof taken off and put back, without the tiles, every single square inch of the roof has a footer to hold a solar panel on it in there. In addition to the 285 panels, we can fill the entire rest of the roof up with solar panels. Some of it is very cost effective because it's in the right spot. Some of it's under a tree is not so cost effective. But we're at the stage in our lives where cost doesn't matter so much anymore. We both drive hybrids, low-end hybrids. I have grandchildren. I want them to breathe this air. So I'm running out of time. I have a request. I want you to draw a distinction between the entities. There were 5 Solar City people here when I got here. They must have known I was going to speak. They all left. I want you to draw a distinction between those that lease and those that buy. To explain why, those that lease are picking our pockets through the federal tax code. I went into the Securities Exchange Commission documents filed by Solar City, and I found why. They're being sued by the Justice Department. Here's what they do. They put together a solar system. Then, under the tax rules, they have the right to sell it to independent investors who will get the 30% tax credit and the double declining balance depreciation that goes with owning a depreciable tax credit over an arbitrarily short useful life of 6 years. So they get half their money back the first year from my pocket, because I pay those taxes. Solar City doesn't own the system, they just agree to manage it. They charge the investor, who's gotten most of his money and gets all of it plus back from the federal government's tax treasury, which is my money, and then Solar City charges the homeowner. All the salesmen tell the homeowners that electric rates go up, they don't go down. I went and I checked that, it's right on the Nevada Energy webpage. They go down too. Over the 5-year period that I checked, they in fact went down. You guys are doing a good job. That's good work. And so I'm looking for the truth from these salesmen, and I only found one person who did it. That was Louise, and she's doing it. She drives a Leaf or some kind of a hybrid, because she's about having her grandchildren be able to breathe the air, as well as mine, and I kind of like them. I would like them to breathe this air and not cough. I'm also 71. I'm the youngster of those guys that started out. I think it's important you draw that distinction. People who don't have the money that I have should be able to put solar on their house cost effectively. And you should encourage that. You must have grandchildren, or some people in this room have grandchildren. You want them to breathe this air and not cough. The sun produces energy, and it doesn't pollute the air. Nevada Energy does a pretty good job. They don't have any coal plants. You guys did that. Congratulations again. They use only gas-fired plants and solar plants. But if I could put solar panels on the rest of those footers, that's about 100. They'll let me put another 113 on, but I could put 400 on. I could supply my whole neighborhood. Would I make money at it? No. But my grandchildren would breathe better air. And what's the point of my having spent all my life working my fingers off to make this money if I can't use it to let my grandchildren breathe clean air? I thank you all very much for your time, and I congratulate. Oh, one more thing. One of the rules to be able to use solar energy is you have to let Nevada Energy come and read your meter, so the net metering, so you can get a credit. And they insist that you put their lock on your front gate. We have a gate, obviously. You got ours, we have a gate too. So we did what they told us. We put their lock on the front. Then they came and went away because it was locked. So we kept telling them, you have the key. And then they came and took the lock away. So, I don't know. That's just a little, I don't know. That's what happened. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, President.
Oh, and I didn't have any prepared remarks. I don't know how to do that.
Arira Tita?
Good afternoon. My name is Arira Tita, and I'm a homeowner. I'm looking forward to put the solar. My home, I believe.
Can you get that closer to you?
Can you hear me? I'm looking to put solar for my home, and I've been doing some researching and ask a question, going to all these meetings, and it's hard for me to understand because right now everybody will say, oh, you know, maybe just wait to see what's going on with Nevada Energy and how it's going to work and everything else. I'm working 2 jobs, and I want to be able to put solar on my roof so that way I can cut down my energy and you know, take care of my family, and instead of spend too much money on something else, I like it to be a green egg and doing green energy. But right now, I don't know what's gonna happen because it's gonna be to the left or gonna be to the right, or what the decision that you'll be able to make solar affordable for me to be able to have it on my rooftop.
The only thing I can tell you is the commission has to make a decision by December 31st.
And you know what gonna happen?
We're going to have a hearing and take evidence, and then the commission will issue an order. And we'll have an agenda where we vote on that by December 31st.
By December 31st. And another thing, why don't keep the net meter as the same as it is, so that way everybody, not just because you raise or you know you can't afford it, so everybody can have a solar rooftop on their home to produce energy instead of going to build a solar farm.
Well, I'm not going to comment. I have a hearing, I have a proceeding that's going to be in front of us, so you won't get any comments from me on those issues.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Loretta Tancredi?
Sorry about the hat. You know when you wear a hat, you don't take it off.
Oh, you actually
Gotta
slow.
stay for the rest of the day. Good afternoon, and thank you for letting me speak. My name is Loretta Tancredi, and I'm a proud Nevada Solar customer. I grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, under cloudy skies. Sunny days were rare, and the air was always filled with car exhaust and diesel. So when I arrived in Las Vegas in the early 70s, I was stunned to see, for the first time in my life, skies so blue they looked like they weren't real. It was magical. First thing every morning, I would go to my window and look out at the sky. The population then was around 250,000, and I can remember driving south on Decatur Boulevard and seeing only 1 or 2 other cars on the road. The humidity was 5%, and evaporative coolers could cool your house for $30 a month. Then the population boom hit, and you know what happened to the air quality. Now the news channels are posting air quality reports advising people not to go outdoors at certain times because the level was so high. It was so depressing. I read everything I could get my hands on about passive solar power, And with the help of a book I read on the subject written by Masria, and an architect and I designed a home to be built on a piece of raw land. Unfortunately, a divorce halted that project. I had hoped to have solar installed for my present home, but the cost to buy a system outright was way out of my reach. Fast forward to 2015, and now because of advances in technology, the price of solar has come down and is now affordable and accessible to me and everyone in this community. Our big chance has arrived. I'm happy and excited to say that last week my solar system was installed on my roof by Solar City. A crew of 5 of the hardest working and happiest guys I've ever seen in my life worked all day on my roof in the blazing sun so I could finally have the opportunity to do my part to protect the environment. It was obvious to me that they were very happy to have the job. I look forward to NV Energy removing their equipment so I can get online as soon as possible. I've already signed up 4 friends and family, and I won't rest until everyone I know is given the chance to take a choice to produce their own clean and renewable electrical energy on their own roofs from the biggest energy reactor in the universe, the sun. All Nevadans should have the same option to go solar and to choose, and the Public Utility Commission needs to protect our right to choose where we get our energy and to allow solar to grow and create jobs in Nevada. NV Energy has a monopoly here in Nevada, and that has to change. Teddy Roosevelt's probably turning over in his grave. I saw an article in the Las Vegas Sun recently that said NV Energy plans to build a 706 megawatt natural gas power plant that could cost ratepayers up to $1 billion. They asked the PUC for permission to spend $2.4 million to do a study on designs, air quality effects, and transmission options should the plant be built. $2.4 million for a study. Who pays for that? We do, the ratepayers of Nevada. We're currently paying the highest rates in the Mountain West. This is a poorly disguised attempt to hide the fact that NV Energy simply wants to add to its rate base to increase its earnings and cost ratepayers up to $70 million a year. What will that do for poor people and people on a fixed income? Bottom line, Nevada is one of the sunniest places in the country, as you've heard. And solar is a no-brainer. Solar provides Nevadans a choice. Solar is a real Nevada success story, creating jobs and driving economic growth in the state. Over the next 20 years, my solar system alone will offset over 202,000 pounds of CO2, saving the equivalent of driving a car 217,000 miles and over 45,000 gallons of water used to make electricity. We ask the Commission to continue to do the right thing and stand up for Nevada ratepayers like myself and protect our right to go solar by setting long-term rules that allow the solar industry to continue. Thank you so much for all you do for this community. You are very much appreciated, and thank you for giving me time. May I give the rest of my remarks to you?
Oh, yes, please go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. Arthur Siegler? Siegler? Siegler?
Well, thank you. I'm fine. I'm fine. Thank you.
could be nice at times.
As you can see, I'm 92 years old, a World War II veteran. And my complaint is, I need a copy of that.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like the commission to have these 2 paid bills. Would you please give that to the commission? With CenturyLink. And I'm here to plead for a choice, another phone company. Because when one company gets complete control, they misuse their my wife and I own the property at 920 Vantage Point Road. My name is Arthur Sigler. And we have been living there for over 14 years. As an example of what we ran into with CenturyLink is we received a bill dated the 10th of the month, and we received it 3 weeks later. And they go overboard with this late charges, as you probably could see. What I'm asking for is a choice of another phone company. Also, we found out that receiving mail in Vegas at a house, the mailbox is rifled through every so often. Now, we do own a property in Los Angeles, California, and when we receive mail there's a slit in the building. The mail goes through the slit and it stays in a room. And our problem is that our medical is very good in California. So because of that, our doctors are there, and we make trips every 3 months to go to California for the appointments. And then we come back, and we like Vegas. It's our vacation. It's our at our age, it's something to do rather than twiddling your thumbs in California. I think I've covered it. We have been doing this for 14 years. We have been going every 3 months or 2 or 3 months to California by car, coming back and then enjoying ourselves in Vegas. So we tried to talk to CenturyLink to no avail. They're in a place of power. So I'm just asking the commission for a choice. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Ziegler, have you had a chance to talk with any of our consumer division reps?
Say that again?
As the commission, since we have jurisdiction on CenturyLink, if you have a complaint, we have a consumer division that can assist you. And I was just wondering if you had a chance to talk with our consumer division.
If I had a chance to...
Speak with our consumer division. Lisa Scott right there, she's a member.
Oh.
I'd invite you to have a conversation with her today.
All right. Well, thank you again.
You bet. And did you want, I'm going to give this to Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's Sheila Sterling.